David, let's talk a little bit about War Churchill, because that certainly brings it up to a subject that a lot of Americans hold dear to their heart in terms of what happened on 9/11.
Well, War Churchill is typical of the anti-American left that wants the terrorists to win, or the Islamic radicals. I mean, the left rooted for Stalin in the Cold War, rooted for Mao, rooted for Ho Chi Minh, rooted for every bloodthirsty communist that came on the horizon, and did everything they could to cripple the United States. I mean, that's what the disarmament movement was about. We don't really have peace movements in America. The movement before the Iraq War was not a peace movement. It was a peace movement. There would have been one demonstration, at least, in front of the Iraqi embassy, demanding that Saddam Hussein obey the UN resolutions. After all, leftists like the UN, and stop violating the truce and let the inspectors in. There were no such demonstrations, because peace movements in America are anti-American movements. They are to cripple us. And War Churchill just has the talent for blurting out what the others actually believe but are too smart to say in public. And so he wrote an article, I believe it was 2 days after 9/11, saying that the victims of 9/11 in the World Trade Center were little Eichmanns and got what they deserved, because the business of America is extermination of minorities. And War Churchill has written books to that effect. He's got 2 or 3 books comparing America to Nazi Germany.
And this is a professor.
War Churchill, at the time that this scandal broke, and it broke through a series of bizarre circumstances that were unlikely to happen, he was a full professor. He made $120,000 a year and $40,000 in speaking fees. He taught 3 hours a week. He was the chairman of his department, which means he was in charge of hiring new professors. So the whole department under him was a bunch of War Churchills of the same views. It took the university a year to fire him and several $1 million. And they did it by convening a panel of liberal academics who said that he was a fraud and a plagiarist and not a scholar. When the head of the Regents announced the decision, she said it was one of the hardest decisions we've ever had to make. Why? The guy was a fraud. This shows you how bad our universities are. That somebody like, it's not just where Churchill has thousands of professors signed petitions supporting him. When I went to speak at the University of Hawaii, the professors embarrassed the student who invited me by refusing to meet with me. But the students told me that when Churchill came, they couldn't, it was like a rock star had come. And all these professors wanted to get next to him and get the glory with him. So, we're creating a monster in our universities. It's a ticking time bomb. You cannot surrender your schools to people who hate freedom, hate the American Constitution, hate the free market system, and love your enemies. And that's what we have right now.
We're running out of time. There were so many things I wanted to talk to you, especially about the fact that I think progressive politicians and educational people and even our judicial branch of government seems to believe that the Constitution's irrelevant.
Where do you think the judges went to school?
Yeah, there you go.
Dan Jones, the White House communist who just was forced to resign, was a Yale Law graduate.
Well, you've written and co-authored a number of books on how politics and politicians have affected, or perhaps more precisely, infected our society. And you've written on religious fanaticism. You've just got a wealth of knowledge. Because we don't have time to talk about all the things that I'd like to talk, I'd like you to just maybe give a few seconds about the David Horowitz Freedom Center. It is a nonprofit center. You have Front Page magazine, and tell people how they can find out more about what you're doing.
I like to describe the Freedom Center as not a think tank, but a battle tank. And we have 5 websites. One of them, very important, is called discoverthenetworks.org, which is an encyclopedia of the left, so that you get a schooling in who the left is, where they are, what their organizations are, and how they're clustered around President Barack Obama. I also have a website, frontpagemagazine.com, which is a daily newspaper, which gives you news of the war at home as well as abroad. And that's basically what we do. I'm out on the campuses a lot. We're conducting a campaign this fall. It'll be our 4th Islamofascism Awareness Week. And this one, the theme of this one is Stop the Campus War Against Israel and the Jews. Because there's a global genocidal movement to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth, led by Ahmadinejad and Chavez, but supported by the Muslim world, which never says a negative word about the Jew haters in its midst, and supported on American campuses. There's a Muslim Students Association on every major campus in America. Muslim Students Association is an arm of the Muslim Brotherhood and supports the jihadists against America and is coddled. Every one of these Muslim Students Associations is protected, coddled, and funded by the university.
Well, you're
as I said earlier in the program, conservatives, you've been asleep. You want this country, you want what's left of it, you better wake up and defend it.
For those who still pledge allegiance to the United States and to the republic for which it stands, we don't want it to be for which it stood. Would like to thank you for all that you're doing to promote true academic integrity and your tremendous efforts to preserve our freedoms. The David Horowitz Freedom Center, you can find him at horowitzfreedomcenter.org. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it is a non-profit, so your donations are welcome.
That's the least developed of our websites. Go to frontpagemagazine.com.
Okay, there you go. Thanks again for being
you.
with us. I'm Elizabeth Allan Hodge. The program is FYIdaho.